The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio program was originally broadcast on March 22nd, 2022.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Tumpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and today we're going to speak with Representative Linda Clark about her experiences as a new person and the legislative team. We're going to learn about legislative matters that are important and some of the priorities going on this session. We're going to speak with Councilmember Yuki Sugimura and get an update on access deer and that issue, as well as discuss the Federal Aviation Administration and the National Park Service survey about helicopter tours. And in addition to that, we're going to talk about the fiscal year 23 budget session and priorities. And we're going to speak with the executive director of Feed My Sheep, who feeds the hungry across Maui Island. But first, we're going to start with Linda Clark. I would like to welcome this new representative. Linda Ann Ha'ai Clark is now serving as representative for District 13, which includes Haiku, Hana, Kaupo, Kipahulu, Nahiku, Keanai, Paia, Kaho'olawe, Lanai, Molokai, and Molokini. This is the Canoe District. So she was appointed by Governor David Ige after the seat became vacant in June 2021. Good morning, Linda, and mahalo for being with us today.
Hi, good morning, Pam. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So you've been, after being appointed by Governor Ige, you've now been there for a number of months. Can you share with us a little bit about your experiences, some of the challenges you might have had after you kind of hit the ground running, and tell us a little bit about, getting set up, finding staff, and all the things that you have to start off with when you're just elected?
That's right. I had to find staff, first of all.
Yeah.
I just want to say, first off, that I'm so grateful, for this opportunity to serve my district. And you've mentioned a few areas that would include also now Sprecklesville,
oh,
Paia,
yes,
all the way to Kaupo, so East Maui. Yeah. We don't want to forget anybody.
Absolutely not.
It's been a great experience. And like I said, first of all, I, had to get staff hired. And I have a wonderful team now with an office manager, a committee clerk, and a legislative aide. I also have an intern. She goes to school, but she comes in twice a week. She wants to get familiar with the process and what we do at the Capitol. And I'm so grateful that I have a full staff that helps me to coordinate. Writing bills was a learning curve for me. It, wasn't something that I've done before. But with everyone's help and prior experiences, and my colleagues that were so helpful, it's just really been a joy to experience. I think that prior coming into the legislation or the experiences that have helped me prepare was serving on the HANA advisory with planning, as well as serving as president for the Kaupo Community Association, Inc., from 2015 to 21. So it really was a time for me to let go of that. And with the project being completed, the community now has the joy to plan for whatever they want to see there at the Kaupo Community Resource Center.
Yes.
But back to having great staff, they really helped me to identify priorities throughout the district. We sent out a survey that allowed us to identify top priorities housing and ag were common priorities, while better tourism management was requested by East Maui residents. So it really, gave me an area to focus as I was preparing to write or draft legislation. So I'm so grateful.
That's fantastic, and that's. I love hearing that as you're getting ready to prepare, you did this survey within the group, within the areas that you served, and asked people to ring in. We at the Chamber, we do a lot of surveys, but you're one of the first legislators I've heard say actually that they did a survey before starting the legislative session and drafting legislation.
Right, because I could write anything, but I really wanted to have the heart of the people and what they wanted. So, I've always believed that I've been a good listener, and I really want to work well with, the goals that the people in the communities, and they vary, like I mentioned, although ag and housing was the common across the board, East Maui struggles with run by tourists that are misbehaving.
Yes, it's been a big challenge for them. Yeah,
that sure has been.
Well, I love that you were focusing on these core issues and looking at, and recognizing the nuances, what was common, and it's nice to hear that ag is common. It is very common in those areas, but not all of those areas. So it's nice to, still know that ag is common, as a common thread throughout the community, and that tourism management is important, but also more centralized in key areas as well.
Right. And with respect to ag, there was a couple things going on with ag. We've been struggling with the overpopulation of the axis deer, and so we really wanted to get on top of that because it was just affecting our farmers and our ranchers, that really produce our market, our food here for the islands, and so we really wanted to address the deer and overpopulation. And then we're looking at how we can be more sustainable with respect to farm-to-table models. So that was really exciting. And because I serve a huge ag district, right?
Yes.
It just made sense.
Yes.
It just made sense.
Yes. And as a member of Council Member Yuki Sugimura's task force on access deer, I just want to thank you. This is a huge challenge, certainly a challenge for farmers and ranchers, but becoming, unfortunately, more and more of a challenge for our communities because the deer, we're now hearing about what's happening at the airport, where the deer, as they're getting pushed out of certain areas, and as we're doing more fencing, which we need to do to start controlling and mitigating some of the huge negative impacts. They're gonna go somewhere. So it's something that we really now need to address. Right.
They're gonna go somewhere. So that if someone puts up a fence, they're just gonna go to the neighbors, right?
Right. Yeah. I keep making that point.
Exactly.
I've been saying the good news is we're going to be fencing the cool ag park, but I was like, yes, and then they're going to move up. So
that's right.
But I'm the point is, and I really want to thank you for recognizing that and joining other legislators who are really working on the access deer issue, because that is a big issue for us in Maui County. And yet your focus on housing, every time we're at a council meeting and any time I'm meeting with business groups and even chambers across the state, we're all unified that housing is a critical priority. So can you...
And we've been looking specifically, housing for teachers. Without teachers, what is our schools going to do without teachers? We can't have that. So we got to take care of teachers who take care of our children and families, and have a better system. So if it is possible, we were looking at teacher housing
Yes.
in particular. And I'm real excited. I'm real excited to help the teachers and provide housing for them. They really deserve that. And it's a much needed, again, across the district. Across the state, if you ask me, but
Absolutely.
I'm just focusing on my district. Really, if others will ask me for support, I'll definitely be more than happy to. But it really is for me important to focus on my district.
Yes.
And I visited Molokai and Lanai a few times now to, get a better idea. You really never know until you're on the ground and you're visiting the different places and seeing with your own eyes. So it was real important for me to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm sure they were grateful to have you there so that you can see and report back and listen to them, which, as you said, and as people have shared, you're such a great listener. And, we really appreciate that you're there and serving these communities in your district. Because, that's one area. Even we have, sort of representation at the county council, but when you're elected to serve all, in Maui County. And
right.
But, at the state level, it's so important, especially for the neighbor islands, to have great representation for their areas. So we're so thrilled to have you there. What are some of the key issues that you're seeing at the state legislature and some of the efforts that you're taking to help address those top issues that are maybe include your area, include the regions that you serve, as well as, statewide challenges like you mentioned, the teacher housing?
Right. Well, I think with respect to legislation that we put forth and, the bills that are specific to my district is House Bill 1635, and that is related to rural health. And in my discussions with health providers in my district, the biggest issue that surfaced was nurse retention, along with, the housing.
Yes.
So this bill in particular would create a task force that will develop recommendations on how to recruit and retain nurses in rural areas. So it's passed the House and is now being heard by the Senate. My office has been busy garnering support for this measure. So, it's making its way. There's another bill that also is still alive, House Bill 1631. This is relating to conservation and water catchment. With the severe drought that we've been experiencing, I really thought that this was important to allow not only homeowners but farmers. So this bill would provide a tax credit, $100 non-refundable tax credit for anyone that installs a catchment system of 1,000 gallons, of at least 1,000 gallons. Promoting the water catchment, really aids in rural development and conserves freshwater resources. And we did some research, our office did some research, and according to a 2017 Sea Grant survey of Hawai'i Island, found a 25% increase in affordable housing in Puna was attributed to the availability of water catchment.
Wow, great point.
Yeah, so, with respect to resolutions and back to the teachers' housing, HR 26 HCR 30, this resolution is asking the Department of Education to follow workforce housing models such as Kaua'e Makana and the Hokuau 201H housing project for all teachers seeking affordable units in the state. It's HCR 30/HR 26 seeks to supply homes to meet the current and growing demand by teachers, strengthen the relationship between place and people by displaying solidarity for the role of a teacher plays in the lives of the community the teacher serves, and acknowledges the major teacher shortage that has impacted the state and where appropriate protecting teachers through the current and future pandemics. So, we're really pleased with these resolutions. Another resolution that is making its way is HCR 65/HR 59 is the certification process for hunters. We're also including farmers in this. This is to request the Department of Agriculture to develop a certification process for hunters and farmers to become certified inspectors. This was one of the challenges that we found that needed to be addressed. This will allow for them to inspect their own game for sale. This will provide hunters and farmers the opportunity to become certified inspectors and will expedite the inspection process so that they may ensure quality and safety of the meat, and it also addresses the overpopulation of access deer in the state. So we're really pleased that these resolutions and bills are still making its way, and
that's an amazing feat, because for those who don't know, we start out, and this was a carryover year, so that meant we had some bills from the last session. So we had well over 5,000 bills this session. Usually it's over 2,000. Carryover years, it's usually about 4, but this year we had over 5,000 new and introduced bills this year that were being taken up. And we're past the midway point. So a lot of bills never make it to what we call crossover from one house to the others.
Yes.
So they start in their originating house and they're taken up, and then they cross over to the other house where they can be further modified. And then depending on where things up, you get into something called conference committee, unless they pass out, out of one committee or everybody agrees. But so to keep things alive, for this your first session, and to see all these things and to keep things alive is a real tribute, because it's hard to do.
It's hard to do. I've reached out to my colleagues. I've reached out to senators to, also aid and assist these bills and resolutions. And I'm so pleased with the response. Everyone's really working together and supportive, and it just has been a wonderful experience for me.
I am so glad to hear that. We've got just a couple minutes, but is there anything you'd like to share that's very specific to your district? You mentioned kind of the Calpo Community Resource Center. Is there anything regarding, I know we've been looking at rural areas and broadband service that you'd like to share?
Yeah, that's always a challenge. And, we've been through committee hearings and getting the understanding that, is behind setting up broadband. It depends, Hawaiian Tel and Maui Electric and where their access is. So the rural areas are just tough. It's just really tough. And we're trying to make way with, what we can. And we're very optimistic with getting the much needed broadband and better internet service out in our rural areas. Yeah, but thank you. And our Calpo Community Resource Center, I'm so thrilled. It's such a beautiful property, and now we have the beautiful building, and we have a hub there that provides power to the building that's never had before. So, the community is still rejoicing, I think, in this wonderful accomplishment and goal that they've had for 20 plus years.
Wow.
So, it really is a time for celebration for the community.
Absolutely.
And I'm real happy to share with, others that might want to, do the same in their communities, because we have these opportunities with respect to areas and, with with the storms that we've been experiencing in these areas and the washed out roads, it really would serve the purpose, and not just for community members, but for visitors alike.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I've only seen pictures. I haven't been out to Hana in a really long time, but I really want to commend the community. And again, it just shows us all, with aloha and working together, what can be done. Representative Linda Clark, I want to thank you for joining us this morning and for sharing all that you've been doing this legislative session. And we'd love to have you on again sometime soon to keep giving us updates about what's happening in the areas that you represent.
Thanks so much, Pam.
We loved having you. Have a beautiful Maui day.
You too. Aloha.
Aloha. We'll be right back after a brief message from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. And we're back with someone you all know, Councilmember Yuki Sugimura, who holds the Maui County seat for Upcountry Residency Area of the Maui County Council, a small business owner, wife of 30 years, Baldwin High School graduate, where I went to high school as well, University of Hawaii at Manoa graduate, 20-plus year Kula resident, and, of course, a volunteer working for our community. Also used to head the Office of Economic Development during Mayor Apana's term. She is a treasurer and a chair of the Infrastructure and Transportation Committee and vice chair of the Human Concerns and Parks Committee. Good morning, Yuki. How are you?
Good morning, Pam. How are you?
Oh my gosh, it's a gorgeous Maui day. I'm very blessed. So glad to have you join us.
Yes. So thank you very much. I heard you talking about access gear. I was listening to Representative Linda Clark.
Linda Clark, yes. I know, although Linda Coit is also working on it as well. So both Lynn and Linda are involved in this. Well, Governor Ige just signed an emergency proclamation for Maui County's access to your problem, something that you have been a huge champion on. And, we're recognizing this huge overpopulation on Maui and Molokai, but, no island is immune. Lanai has issues too. Can you tell us about why you jumped in and the task force that you established, and also why access deer also can be important to our economic development?
Yeah. In fact, I was hoping we could talk about that. So very briefly, in September of last year is when we started the task force. But the reason I got involved is I read a letter to the editor in the Maui News from a Pukalani resident who said, why is she having access deer in her yard? And she's like, it was landscaping that it was eating. And that made me think about the growing problem, because the access deer was going into the residential community.
Yes.
And then I looked around and it was in my yard. Now I have no garden. I have no, I'm not a farmer or anything, so I don't have that privilege. But the deer was eating my landscape. So that kind of started it. And I did a Zoom meeting. It was February of last year. And then as time went on, in September, we pulled together this task force subcommittee, and one of them, Pam, thank you very much for being part of it, the economic development, which is right in your wheelhouse. But we also have one for manage and control, which are basically hunters and Maui County Farm Bureau, people like that, and ranchers. And then we also have like a communication legislative group, which has, like Linda Clark and Linda Coit, Kyle Yamashita is part of that. And the one that really excited me was the ecology and environment, where we have from the access deer, which is composting, came out of that, the need for the island, as well as the reuse of R1 water and trying to regreen areas that have been devastated by the axis deer. And I heard Linda talking about the Kona storm that happened in December. And that definitely, we saw how the devastation of the foliage on the Ahapua'a, and that there was brown water going into the ocean, from that, besides the fierce, damage of the rains. But it also, brought to light the other problems that we have caused by the axis deer. So that's that. But we should talk about the economic development aspect. I also wanted to mention that House Bill 1721 is a bill that basically tries to talk about trying to address this problem that we have. I think that Linda Clark was talking about, and trying to get the state to get more control over the certification of the meat and that can be eaten. So that whole process is huge, and I hope that everybody will support 1721. This was introduced by Representative Hashem with Representative Yamashita, and it basically tries to address some of these problems. And then also this bill will set the framework so that we can tie into the federal farm bill, which is being worked on and will be revised. I think they do it every 10 years. So it's in the works, and this bill will then tie us to the federal government so that hopefully we can get more funding. So there's all kind of things going on. But let's talk about economic development, Pam.
Well, the key thing that we found out clearly is that economic development starts with how we can process the meat. So I'm glad that you mentioned how important the bill is, because until we can appropriately process the meat for use, and that, by the way, is the low-hanging fruit on the economic development, is starting with the meat. But there's many things that can be made out of deer.
Yeah.
So we are excited. I'll share a little bit, and I'll let you jump in. But what we found also, because at the Maui Chamber of Commerce, we've been working with local manufacturers since the early '80s with the Made in Maui County program. Well, now Made in Maui County program. It used to be Made in Maui program when it started, but our manufacturers are always innovative and creative, and now the axis deer, in addition to being an invasive species and pest, they're also a resource because there are so many of them. And so we've been looking at ways to not only use the meat, but make products from the meat, donate the meat to help feed those in need. And then beyond the meat, there's the skin, and there's things that can be made out of the bone and out of the antlers, and it just goes on and on.
Yes, I so agree. I'm glad you're heading that subcommittee, and with all your connections in the community, it can go much farther and faster than most. So appreciate that. But this House Bill 1721, I think, will help get us to where we can feed the hungry. I think there's programs nationwide, and until we work through this hurdle of having a certified veterinarian be there at the control or mitigation part, we're going to have a hard time. So that's our stumbling block right now, and I hope that we're able to work through this.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Important.
And as you point out, there's national models, Farmers and Hunters Feeding the Hungry, who work with local regions. They've looked at, and Feed My Sheep is going to be on later in the program too, but they've seen the mission of Feed My Sheep and work with organizations like that. And we're trying to help make that connection because it's a liability issue. We have so many hunters and farmers who want to donate deer and donate the meat to help feed the hungry, but there are certain liability issues and federal and state regulations that we need to work through. So this is an exciting bill.
Yeah, so let's hope we can, make it through that. Brian Schatz announced, and we have in our budget, I guess what used to be called earmarks, but $600,000 from the federal budget for axis deer for Ku'ag Park.
Awesome.
So I think that we've gotten everybody kind of focusing on this problem, which is good. And if everybody does their part, we'll go far. I'm really excited to see the large ranch owners working together to mitigate this problem. They came up with a fencing map as well as we got the survey of where the deer are, and upcountry, which I call the breadbasket, we have like about 46,000 deer there when the survey was done. But it just shows the intensity of where the axis deer are living and thriving, and so and the estimate also is that island-wide there's about 60,000 deer. So I through the task force I got to talk to like Hana Ranch, and the general manager there was saying that they cannot do it alone, that the problem is growing, and he pays a huge amount in liability insurance because he knows that there's going to be some hunting on his property. So there's some assistance I hope that we can provide large landowners as well as smaller landowners, but the ranchers and the farmers. So on April 4th, which is next week, Monday, the Budget and Economic Development Committee at 9 o'clock is having a hearing, and on the agenda is anticipated to be the $1.5 million that Mayor Victorino put in as a budget amendment in this fiscal year, which, Pam, ends June 30th.
Yes.
So there's an urgency, to help those landowners or people who are feeling the devastation. And they got to be businesses. It's not going to be people like me that no longer have landscaping, but it will be for businesses that are being impacted by the deer devastation. So there's some action being taken on the county level, which is support of this Axis Deer Task Force. I want to thank Mayor Victorino for that. And then in the new budget, there's also a feral animal $1 million also for to help try to address this problem. Besides what's going on in the state government, and I also believe Congressman Kahele has put in a request for some earmark money for Maui County too. So we're being heard. I'm grateful.
It's really important. We've got time to talk about one more topic, and I know that the Federal Aviation and the National Park Service are wanting to get comments on alternatives for the Haleakala Park Air Tour Management Plan and Environmental Assessment. And April 1st is coming up as the deadline, which is right around the corner. Can you share a little bit about this with us, Yuki?
Yeah, so this is an EA that they are putting out and receiving comments from the community. So I put out a e-blast just to notify, people, and I wish more people would, get in touch with me, but because I want people to send in what their thoughts are, and this would be air tours to go over Haleakala, and then they'll gather that information, and latter part of the year, fall or winter, they're going to come out again with some comments. And again, they're going to ask for information, and at that time, they're going to release analysis of the proposed alternatives. And then fall, winter, it'll be open again for public comments. But I'm going to hold a public meeting at that time. I tried to get one together for now, but it was too last minute, and FAA especially needs a lot of lead time. So I've already made a request to have them attend a Zoom community meeting that I'm going to hold in fall or winter when they're ready. So
Awesome.
We'll hear more. But I will tell you that I got a call from a lady who lives in Keokea, and she said that the helicopter noise is so loud she cannot hear the birds sing. And I thought, wow, let me pay attention to this. So here we are. Keani Rollins Fernandez and myself did do an item, did do resolutions at my last meeting with the Infrastructure Transportation Committee, and talking about this problem that we're having with air traffic noise and helicopter, not only helicopter, but air traffic noise on the island. And we're receiving concerns from people Maui and on Maui as well as Molokai. So we're trying to give this attention with the federal government. The Congressman Kaikahele came and also attended my meeting, and he's here. I think he's going to be here for the next couple of days. And he said that he's interested in looking into this, and he's a pilot, so he understands how this all works. So he's like the perfect spokesperson along. I think Ed Case has been working on this for years. So together, they're working on it. So Pam, before you close, I just want to say tomorrow night is your Mayor Small Business Awards dinner. I'll be there. I look forward to hearing who the winners are. I guess nobody knows at this point, but what an exciting time and great to be able to be together with people. Things are opening up.
Thank you. So we are so glad that you're going to be there. And yes, tomorrow night, which is the Wednesday, the 30th, we are having the 2021. The program was delayed, but we were so excited to get nominations for the annual Mayor Small Business Award. So if you didn't nominate somebody, you can still, because we'll be doing it again in the fall for 2022. But it is a secret who the winners are. Only the judges and I know. Well, actually, Amber and but it's a big secret. Everybody's sworn to secrecy because it's like the Academy Awards. Not the Grammys. There's not going to be any big drama. This is all positivity. We're going to have a great time and a lot of fun and networking at the Maui Beach Hotel. Unfortunately, for those if you haven't gotten tickets, the registration is closed. We are sold out for the event, but it's going to be a great night, and we're going to honor small businesses who've worked really hard to survive this challenging couple of years.
Yeah, I so agree with you. Amazing. So thank you for doing that. I'll be there tomorrow night, and looking forward to talking to you and progressing regarding the Economic Development Committee for the Access Deer Task Force. So thank you very much for taking that on. Really appreciate it.
Well, Yuki, I greatly appreciate the opportunity, and I wouldn't be taking it on had you not created this amazing task force with so many wonderful committees, and your vision of looking at this in a very diverse way from all aspects. Yeah. So, it's a sustainable approach. And the beauty is that there's great opportunities in all areas, and that's the way we have to look at it. Is how do we work comprehensively on this? But again, as we keep coming up to how do we move forward, we keep coming back to this inspection of the meat. So
I know.
Yeah, it's the key.
I know. Yeah, if we can figure that out, that's Hospital 1721 is important. I heard earlier Linda Clark talking about what she's trying to do also. So we'll see what makes it out of the legislature. But I'm pushing for this Hospital 1721 in hopes that this will open up doors for federal government as well as solve this other problem that we're having. And anyway, if we all work on it, it'll happen. And I really believe that. And we're going to make this task force, successful in terms of bringing voices together and pushing this forward.
That's right.
Thanks a lot, Pam.
Thank you for your great leadership. I look forward to seeing you and having fun with you tomorrow night.
Yes, agree.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Aloha. Oh, if you're just tuning in, this is Business Matters brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and we are having the Mayor Small Business Awards tomorrow night at the Maui Beach Hotel. Unfortunately, if you're just hearing about it now, the tickets have been all sold, and we're going to get ready to celebrate. But you look for the winners, because we will be announcing after the event in the press the amazing winners for this year. But every one of the nominees is a winner. They have done outstanding things during COVID-19 times and really survived. And it's a time where we celebrate our small businesses, where we acknowledge community leaders and hold them up and hear from those that have been doing excellent things. At the event, people get to see posters on each of the nominees. And all of the nominees are honored, but the winners do get a special award in their categories. So it's going to be a fun night. If you can't attend or not able to make it and didn't get tickets yet, look for the winners in the local press, because you're going to be thrilled to see some of the amazing and outstanding winners, but the whole list is amazing and outstanding. But it is now my pleasure to welcome Scott Hopkins, the Executive Director of Feed My Sheep. I want to be very clear in full disclosure that I also sit on the board of Feed My Sheep, so I am biased about Scott, who is amazing. And Scott, how long have you worked for Feed My Sheep?
I've worked since 2008. I began as just an office clerk helping out Joyce Kawakami as she did Feed My Sheep and made that all work.
You have been a great, you said office clerk, but I would say right-hand person to Joyce Kamakami for all these years. We all know how important our top administrative assistants and professionals are making things work so that others can get everything else done. But now you are leading as the executive director. Joyce has been retiring from Feed My Sheep, still very actively involved, but you're now running the organization full-time.
That's correct. Yeah, retiring is the key word. It's not that she has retired. It's going to take her a while to actually get there, I think. But yeah, I have had the chance to watch her do things, learn a lot from her. Of course, my background wasn't in anything related to nonprofit or business administration. I was a graphic designer. But coming in and seeing how she did it, it did make a lot of sense. There's a lot of wisdom and instruction that I gained from her, so I really appreciated that opportunity. I don't think I could have come in and started anything like this on my own without someone who knew what she knew and was able to put it all into practice.
Well, and that's true, but I also want to say that you also, as you came into the organization and got involved, you had the heart and the passion for the work that Feed My Sheep does. So tell everybody a little bit about the exciting work that you're doing in this community.
Well, what Feed My Sheep is people of the community working together to feed the hungry in body and mind and spirit. That's our mission statement. And with what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to make the connection between people who have time, they have financial resources, and people who have need. More and more what I've noticed lately is that there are a lot of people who want to help but don't know how.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who want to give but not sure who they can trust. And there's a lot of people who need help but don't want to be treated poorly. And so what we've been doing the entire time we've been operating is trying to create a space where those three groups can come together. I figure food is important personally, but so is the opportunity to be generous. So all we ever do is take our 6 staff and put them to work getting the logistics done so that we can turn around and meet the needs that are out there and provide an opportunity for about 80 to 100 volunteers every week to come, or every month to come and be involved. And then that allows us to serve in a normal season about 3,500 unduplicated individuals in a given year. But of course, during COVID, that went all the way up to about 10,000 people unduplicated who touched Feed My Sheep with need for help at least once.
You know, and that for those who are listening and aren't familiar with sort of the nonprofit world, when you're providing service, because there's so many different agencies out there doing, different elements of things, so sometimes there's a lot of overlap. So when Scott says unduplicated, he's saying Feed My Sheep is tracking to make sure that they're giving to those who really have a need. They first have an assessment as well, but also they're making sure that they're working in an area that's critical so that they're addressing that need and it's not duplicated by other services. So, doesn't mean that the people don't have other wraparound services, but in the area of getting fed by Feed My Sheep and Feed My Sheep, tell people about how Feed My Sheep feeds, because you don't just give people a meal at a time.
Yeah, we give a week's worth of groceries. So about 10 pounds of food per person goes out every week. That allows them to have 21 half-pound meals. And we do this in different locations. So we have 4 sites that we serve at every week. We're in Kahului, Kihei, Happy Valley, and Lahaina. People are able to get to us, acquire the food, and then use it in their homes. And that allows them to also work on their family. It's a little bit less time that they need to be out away from their loved ones. And what we're providing is specifically healthy food. As you know, healthy food is often more costly.
Yes.
We're able to provide that for people so that they aren't just looking for the biggest caloric bang for their buck. If you do that, if you just look for, I have $10 and I need to get the most amount of food, you're going to go for stuff that isn't necessarily the best for what your body needs.
Yeah.
So we go above and beyond with the local produce, and it is sourced from local farms as much as possible. And we do also glean, which is to say we take food that has been available at stores, but then they've taken it off their shelf. We're able to sort through that, determine what is still good for human consumption, and then put that back out for our friends. We say we don't have clients, we have friends, because that's the kind of environment we want to create for them.
Yeah.
And then they're able to have fresh food, local produce, local beef, healthy staples that are going to give their bodies the nourishment they need. And that's a big game changer as far as helping someone recover from a stressful, painful, or difficult situation.
Right. And you brought up another key point, right? We don't see them as clients. We see them as friends, and Feed My Sheep nourishes them in body, mind, and spirit.
Yes.
So tell us... go ahead. I'm sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and that comes down to, it's not just the food that's going to help them recover. Having a listening ear, we offer prayer. We want to track their results over time and get to know them. We try to know them by name so that they feel like it's a safe space for them, and it's a reliable space for them. Because getting out of an injury or past a loss of a job or a loss of a spouse, whatever, that takes a lot of effort, and it takes a community to do it well.
Yes. Yeah, and you folks are doing such an awesome job. Tell us a little bit, we've got a couple of minutes, tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you folks are moving forward with.
Well, currently we have some facilities improvements that we have been wanting and probably needing to do. We have been operating out of donated space for quite a while. At first donated by Alexander and Baldwin. A lot of people are familiar with our site that was next to the Sugar Museum. But now we are back further deep into the old mill area. We're at the corner of old Punene Avenue and Camp 5 Road, which, if you know, is where the center of Punene town used to be. And we're in a warehouse that used to be a church. We're outfitting that so that it will be more efficient. We're looking at things like we want to do solar. We want to improve the physical structure and make it a more efficient operating environment, because there's not really a lot of reason to be spending effort and money and time on the building when our mission is the people.
Right.
So we want to get that into a state where the staff can do our jobs more efficiently. So long-term plans, having solar for energy independence. We want to develop our fleet. A lot of what we do depends on the trucking that we can use for our logistics to set up our sites. All of our sites are mobile. They're all temporary. They're all on borrowed land as well. And those trucks are very important for making sure that we deliver the food efficiently, that our cost per distribution is low, and that the food is in good, safe condition. So we're looking at things like a refrigerated truck. But then, the other side of it is we're also trying to improve how we structure our volunteer times so that people can have a lot of different opportunities to get involved, trying to keep that expanded but intimate. And so we have opportunities that people can volunteer with every week. We have basically about 8 to 10 volunteer opportunities every week that people can come do some part of.
There are so many great ways to get involved, and people rave about the volunteer experience because they connect with the friends in a new way, and they see the difference that Feed My Sheep is making in people's lives. So tell people again, where, for those in need and for those who want to serve, you mentioned where your home base is, but you also mentioned the 4 locations. Tell people where they can find you at those 4 locations.
Okay, so the 4 locations, starting on Thursday mornings from 10 to 11:45, we're in Lahaina. Our location is across from Maria Lanakila Catholic Church in the parking lot. A lot of people recognize that little lot across from the Drift Coffee Shop. And then on Fridays, we're in Happy Valley on Market Street at the corner of Mokohau. It's also from 10 to 11:45, and that's hosted on property that is owned by Living Way Church. On Saturday mornings, we run 2 at the same time. One's in Kahului. It starts at 9, and it goes until noon. And that is at the old fairgrounds, the old swap meet site, pardon me. The old swap meet site that's next to the Pu'unene post office. And then in Kihei, we are at Hope Chapel's parking lot from 10 till noon. Of course, once a month, we also go to Hana. If anyone is listening in Hana, there is a monthly distribution there. And we are in the back of Wananalua Congregational Church. And that is the last Wednesday of every month. So tomorrow will be our next one. And it starts at 4:30 and goes till 5:30 p.m.
Perfect. And Scott, give everybody real quick your website address where they can find out more about volunteering and contributions.
All right. Our website is feedmysheepmaui.com. And there you'll find all of our locations listed, how to contribute through PayPal. And also we have a link on there for a site called Hands on Maui. That is the best way to sign up your own volunteer times. You will schedule yourself and be able to manage your volunteer opportunities depending.
Awesome. Well, Scott, thank you so much for sharing all about Feed My Sheep and joining us today. That's all the time we have for Business Matters, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm Pamela Tumpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing you success and blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day.